Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide. And yes, today we are checking out yet another Penstar device, and it is an eNote again, but this time it's called eNote Pro. And it's no longer the N10 device, this is now the M line of devices, I believe M10C. And this one, and C stands for Color. So this is, technically speaking, eNote Pro Color. And you know that whole kind of thing with the eNote devices not having a touch layer to have the brightest display ever? Well, they've kind of abandoned that because now you have a touch layer here, and you have a color, and you have a front light as well. So yeah, this is a Kaleido 3 color e-tablet, as standard as all the other ones, seemingly, but it does have some extras. It has some little buttons here, it has some barely visible stuff here. It's not just on the camera, it's barely visible normally. So let's check it out and see what's what. Right, so here we have the Penstar eNote Pro Color. And right out of the gate, like everything except the half cover is completely different, or almost completely different. The application, one-handed application, is very, very kind of fiddly and tricky. Not impossible, but it's kind of, and then you kind of get it to go. The main thing about the eNote was that it was a touchless, without a front light type of a device that incorporated a ton of buttons on the side to offer the widest possible display and all that kind of stuff. All of that is gone because this is a Kaleido 3 panel, standard one, so 300 ppi in black and white, 150 ppi in color, has an octa-core CPU, 4 GB of RAM, 128 GB of storage. As far as I can see, it's a non-expandable because you do not have a micro SD card slot. It runs an Android 14, if I'm not mistaken. It has 8 microphone array speakers, massive battery, 6,500 milliamps, I think. And it actually even has, a little camera here. And what's really, really nice to see is that if you're gonna have a camera, well, make it like this. Make it so it's in line with a device, that you don't have a bump, so that it actually is not an obstructive kind of a thing. On the front panel, we have quite a bit of differences. And let's start with this one here, which says a mountain, just mountain, nothing else. It's a bump there and there, and it's called Penstar Mountain. I think it looks okay, but overall, it kind of becomes very busy. What's the point of it? Well, we still do not have a magnetic pen here. Instead, you have this slot here, and you just kind of put this plastic section in here, and you slot it down there, and it holds it perfectly, right? So you can do all of these things. My problem with this is twofold. It sits in the exact same position like other devices where it's held by a magnet, and on more than one occasion I've caught myself actually grabbing onto it and pulling. And the only thing that's holding it is this section here. So you have this ring and then this plastic bit here, and this is plastic. This is not reinforced. There's no like a metal thing inside or anything to kind of reinforce it. And with this going up and down like many times over the course of years, when you're using this, I'm not so sure how long this will last. So there's a high probability that this is going to break off. However, that's not a complete deal breaker, because this bigger section here, that's probably going to be much tougher to break off, still has that slit kind of here. And so I think that even if it breaks, you should be able to still continue using it. The only thing is that it's probably going to go a little bit down. The pen itself has changed as well, because now, we do have the eraser on the back. We have 3 buttons, and it's still an EMR pen. Continuing with the front, of course, we have a 10.3-inch Kaleido panel, which is flush with the screen. The screen surface is true AG glass, meaning no paper-like type of surface on top, so you do not get to have a paper-like type of a writing feel. writing like glass and yeah, felt nib, so not ideal. And the reflective properties are yeah, okay, they're quite okay for a true AG glass, but it is a glass surface. On the top and on the bottom we have perforations that look like they may be the speakers. I would have to guess that the microphone arrays are also embedded in that section as well. We no longer have a huge array of buttons here. We now have 5 buttons. We still have the central button, which is for refresh and long press for home, or home and long press for refresh. And then we have page up and page down, or volume up and down. And we also have these two as well. I think one of these clear cache or clear apps, and the other one is maybe back or something like that. Either way, all of these 4 are programmable. This one I think may be also programmable, but you really want this for refresh and home. The big addition here is that on this black side here, it's very faint, but under certain angles, there we go. The camera should be able to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 capacitive buttons. They are not really buttons, they're just capacitive areas. And these areas are for, I guess, home, notebooks, library documents, recordings, apps, and then you have 1, 2, and 3 in Roman numerals for 3 assignable locations. You can't assign any of the functions here, you can only assign these, and we got settings. These are not illuminated when you start up the device. In anything other than absolutely ideal lighting conditions and ideal reflection conditions, these become completely invisible. And I'm not joking, like you cannot see them at all unless you have the light hitting this in the exact right way, which makes them very difficult to use and very difficult to justify as far as functionality goes, because they're supposed to replace the buttons, which worked very nicely, and I do agree they look very sexy and that's kind of nice, but we have the symptom of modern car user interfaces and interiors where everybody's going to just touch type of things, which only makes things a lot worse. We got equivalent of piano black here to catch all of your fingerprints and make things ugly and make it very, very impractical to quickly navigate and do what you want to do. On the side we have the slots for the half cover. On the top we have a USB-C and we have a power button, which I believe also doubles as a fingerprint reader, which is kind of welcome, and it's very nice to see a power button on top. We have this mountain slot on the side for the pen, nothing else. And on the bottom, nothing else, and only either speakers or microphones. The back is really, really beautiful. It's completely covered in this kind of faux leather feel, and it's completely anti-slip, but it also feels really, really nice to the touch. And then beautifully incorporated camera here. I am against this type of stuff, but if it's going to be a part of a device, then I want it to be completely non-intrusive as it is implemented here, so that's fine. Overall, the build quality is very, very nice. It's really nicely milled. All of this is a metal unibody. So you have this kind of metal frame all over the place, then you have a plastic top here, and then you have a glass frame on top, and this section here as well is plastic, and this faux leather here. There are some issues and imperfections here, because as I slide my fingers down the back, I feel bumps. There's one bump, second bump, third bump. There's a big bump over here, there's another bump right there, right here, there's a bump there, and there's another bump here. So those are electronics inside. Yeah, you do feel these bumps, but only if you're looking for them. In normal type of use, yeah, it's all fine. That's the overall design, and this is a completely new device on the outside. However, on the inside, it hasn't really changed much because it's still the same Penstar OS that we've had before.
for better or for worse. Yeah, the startup procedure is really simple. You just choose your region, you hook up the Wi-Fi, and that's pretty much it. And the weird thing for me is that when I hooked it up on Wi-Fi, it still has a really old version of the OS, but no updates yet. We start with the exact same type of overview, except that we now have a splash of colors in the user interface icons and things like that. This currently is with the brightness set to 5%. Effectively, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really make such a big difference, especially in these lighting conditions, but you can make it go really intense, which does actually help make the colors a little bit more poppy. One of the things that I do like about it is that you have numbers for the brightness and temperature, and of course you have the presets for the different front light settings. I will show in the supplemental footage here how the front light looks, but overall the front light is very uniform, really nice quality, very smooth and soft, and just really beautiful quality of a front light here. Quite a bit above of what we see on books devices, and actually on par with what we see on Kindle devices. So that's a very nice strong point here. However, other than the addition of the brightness, and one more thing, which is when you go to the, let's try and get to the second menu here, we have the touch on or off. So if you want a device to behave like the old touchless eNote, you absolutely can do that by turning it off here, and then it doesn't matter. Then it just works exactly the same as it does from before. Just for the transparency's sake, I'm keeping the front light at 15, so halfway there in these lighting conditions, and for reference sake, this is what it looks like with the front light set to half, and this is with the front light set to off. Other than this section, everything else about the eNote operating system is exactly the same. You got your notes, you got your home, you got your bookshelves, you got your email, you got your apps. No, you do not have your Google Play. Yes, it's still really slow. What goes is an 8-core CPU when the responsiveness is slow. Now these are actually not capacitive. That's my bad when I was talking about it in the beginning, so sorry about that. They actually respond only to the pen input itself. So that makes sense. I guess that's away from accidental touches. In the settings, you can customize the functionality of all of these buttons, and you have the button settings and smart button settings. So the physical buttons are the buttons themselves. And as I said, you have back, refresh, previous, next page, system menu, and speed up. And you can customize these by simply tapping on them, and then you see the whole exactly the same type of user interface as before, with the same problems as before, with the user interface not having margins or anything like that. So really rudimentary. Smart buttons are these buttons here, and here they are aligned very nicely with where they are. You can't really do anything with the grayed out ones. The only customizable ones are the smart buttons 1, 2, and 3 with the Roman numeral buttons numbers 1, 2, and 3. You can launch apps, and you can do software related kind of things. So I think that their approach was to basically make a differentiation where the physical buttons are for system device level operations, and the smart buttons are for software shortcut related kind of functionalities. I think that that's fine as far as logic goes. What I'm not okay with is the vast difference in the user interface and user experience, especially seeing how the user interface for the physical buttons is severely lacking, and there's zero reason why it wouldn't have been like this. I'm now assigning camera to be function 1, function 2, let's choose something else. Let's try Kindle, and then function 3. And it's so slow to the point where you're not really sure if the device registered your input or not. And everything about the eNote yeah, ecosystem is very, very slow. This is not supposed to be a slow device because it does have performance, it does have SoC there enough to do it, and it's not 4 gigabytes of RAM. It doesn't matter for the responsiveness here. It's just the overall logic behind it. It's just really, really slow. So I'm just gonna assign these like that, and I'm gonna go back. And the cool thing about the smart buttons is that once you assign a functionality here, when you go into the menu, it will reflect that. Ideally, these would have been backlit, and then you would have like, yeah, the custom buttons that are not assigned are not backlit, so it gives you an indication of what's what, and it would, of course, increase the visibility and usability of these smart buttons. I'm just going to go quickly through just, yeah, the image quality and reader performance, and then writing performance, and I'm going to leave the DAF testing and more in-depth stuff for the in-depth review. So I'm just going to open up my daily organizer, which you can find on mydeepguide.com/shop, and 2026 is available if you want to use it. So right at the get-go, does it work with hyperlinks? Yes, it does. And then you have also a jump back kind of to get you back to where you were, which is quite nice. So the hyperlinks and the navigation seems to be working. Yeah, I can jump to a week, to a day, to a month, and it's rendering the contrasts quite nicely. So if I do go to one of the dates, for example, let's go here. You can use layout controls to fit screen, fit width, for example. Fit width would be the perfect one for this, or you can even, you know, customize it. So you can use auto trim, and then you can use the trim margin. So you can increase the margin here, and then you can get it to, whoops, yeah. User interface and eNote woes. The functionalities are there, but yeah, everything has to be done very, very slowly. So let's do fit with auto trim, and then yeah, maybe like, and then it just crashes. So not really the best state of things, and an update would be a cool thing to kind of see in this type of situation to kind of make it even better. But all right, so you can make a setting that it actually works very nicely. And let's see, can we just start adding things? No, not immediately, because this reader functions a little bit differently. You have to go into note-taking mode, and when you are in note-taking mode, then you have the note-taking toolbar here. Yes, I know. And then you can make your entries. So that works fine, and you have a couple of different brushes. You can have 3 different presets, and yeah, choose which one you want. So for example, maybe I want preset number 1 to be the fountain pen with a thickness of 3. Maybe I want this one to be, for example, ballpoint pen with a thickness of 3. And this guy here is the highlighter if I want a highlighter. And that way you can very, very easily kind of jump between different things. The problem with the system here is that you have to exit the handwriting mode to get into hyperlink navigation type of situation here. So that makes things a little bit kind of like back and forth, and as before, it makes the workflow on the eNote as a system, it makes it feel dated. Fountain pen works nicely. And overall, the writing feel, well, the writing precision is better than it was on the eNote. eNote 2, much better than what we had on eNote 1, but it's still just okay. I would just characterize it as, at best, okay. The writing feel is also okay. The speed is not that good because I would judge it at around 40 to 50 milliseconds because you can clearly see it trailing as you're writing. This would have been fine 5 years ago, but it's no longer standard or no longer contemporary in end of 2025. It's actually quite dated. So this is something that's leitmotif through all of the Penstar devices so far, that yeah, the performance, the user interface, and the logic behind the device itself and interaction with the device feels dated. Right, so let's try and use these smart buttons on the side. So for example, these are library readings. I want to go to the bookshelf and let's do a test document here. So let's open up the one that I always use, which is the user manual here. So we can use the same stuff that we've done before. So I'm going to try and get to the menu. There we go. And I want to get it to be auto trim and very small margins so that we can have as much as possible. Now the next thing that I want to do is see if this device is enabled with an auto rotation functionality. Yes, it is. So it can auto rotate, and we need to see how it functions when it is in a horizontal state, because yeah, sometimes you may want to use it if it's usable, and I think that it is, because we already now have an arrow down here which indicates that the page before or previous page and next page is actually going to, oh, it functions differently. That's kind of weird. So using physical buttons is actually going to flip the page in regardless of which mode you're in. But if you're in landscape format and the whole page is not fitting, the gesture of the next page is going to slide you down the page and then flip to the next or the previous page. So the next page gesture works properly as a touch command, but we don't get that same type of functionality with the page buttons. Maybe something that you want, maybe not something that you want, but that's how it works. Overall speed is very, very slow, but really, really clean. So we have very little ghosting remnants here, so which is good, because if it's that slow, then it needs to make it worthwhile. And this device certainly does. The rendering of colors is okay, perfectly fine for this type of display, and the readability overall is nice. We have very nice differentiation between thin fonts, the bold fonts, and thin italics here, very nicely readable, as you can probably see from this example here. Well, yeah, this is working fine, and as I've said before, yeah, no ghosting, so the refresh is involved. We have quite a few things happening, but it is fairly thorough. So we do get ghosting issues in the most difficult. So you can see palm trees definitely having a ghosting remnants there. Again, something very strange with the interface. It's going back and forth. The system is just doesn't give me an impression of stability. That's the overall impression is like really, really slow, and it feels like it's barely working, as if it's gonna kind of break at any moment. That's the impression that I get from this kind of stuff. So I don't really feel comfortable enough to do my regular tests, which would be several taps ahead, but let's try. We're starting at page 23, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We are at 33, so it's registering correctly. It's just that the update is very slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I guess it's just the sense of speed that gives that kind of impression. But overall, the rendering of colors is very, very beautiful. It looks like a piece of paper. And if you just kind of look at this from different angles, you can just see what the benefit is of of a color ePaper e-ink device. Despite Kaleido Tree having definitely a lot of issues, what I'm trying to do here is to get to the menu to turn off auto rotation so I can show you this in a different angle, but oh, it's so slow. So we can refresh, and yeah, so if you look at this, oh, it's still auto rotating, even though I just turned off the auto rotation. Never mind. It looks very pretty. That's what I was trying to kind of say in these examples. It definitely feels like reading through a magazine, but you may not be a fan of the refresh speed and the refresh method itself. Now it's time to go to notebooks, write the title. So yeah, let's say example notebook. Right? So it should example notebook. Not really that precise or good. So, and I keep encountering that on this device. So its OCR capability is not that great. And you can have your basic, planning, creative, lifestyle, tons of built-in ones, but you also have the ability to import your custom templates, and you do that by transferring your templates in PNG files. Again, shameless plug, you can find them on mydeepguide.com/shop, curated templates for your notebooks, and yeah, they work for the eNote Pro as well. And you would then just go select from album, and then it goes like, oh yeah, there's albums. Well, albums are actually folders. So which are the folders? And for this one, I would choose 300, 10.3, because it's 10.3 inch at 300 ppi. And then you select the ones that you want, except that it allows you to select one at a time, which is very, very strange. And then you finally go through that, and then you import it, and then you have it available in custom. The process is tedious, but once you actually do get them in there, you can favorite them, and then it's much, much more easier, because then they are simply accessible here. And then you can just go, okay, so that's the one that I'm choosing, and I'm gonna go create. And then you have a brand new notebook with a pixel perfect 8mm spacing template that I just got from my website. So what can we say? Well, we could say that the writing overall has been improved. It feels more precise. It's still rendering in a nice quality, but it's also now able to capture the handwriting a bit more authentically. That's not even a word, than the eNote and eNote 2. That being said, it's still lacking behind the contemporary devices, but overall, this is definitely something that I would be able to use. I wouldn't like it or enjoy it or anything like that, but I wouldn't have any deal-breaking problems using this for writing, which is not the case with either eNote or eNote 2. This being a color device, we do have some colors, some choices of colors, and yeah, you can choose from these colors here, and I'm just gonna go and give you a couple of examples here just so that you can see how they are rendered, and I'm gonna see what happens when they are blended over. Nope, they're just rendered over, and you can see yeah, a stroke disappeared. Is this like an AI thing where you maybe do this and then it erases? Yes, it is. But where does it say that? Well, it says here, AI scribble, erase, except for marker, right? That's something that you kind of have to be aware of. But overall, the rendering of colors is quite nice, and to be really honest, the brush itself as a pen responds very nicely to the pressure sensitivity. Much better than what we've had before. As you can see, we can go from very thin, thicker, and lighter. If it's a 4096 pressure level of sensitivity pen, then my Kindle Scribe pen should work. It's not. So maybe they finally cracked it and made it much better than what it was. But this is a huge improvement in pressure calibration as far as this device goes. It's a night and day type of a situation, how much more expressive this type of interaction is with this other pen and with this device. Okay, to conclude this first look, I'm just gonna use the camera here and see what it can actually do. Can it work as a scanner? So what I want to do here is take a photo of this, saving in progress. All right, so that took a long time, and I'm not entirely sure how good is it. It's okay, but the whole point of this, let's zoom in a little bit, is to see what can we do with this. So yeah, edit, share, set as, add to album, rotate, details. We don't have OCR recognition, or nope. So we don't have OCR recognition. You can't make it into a document. You can't really do anything. So the camera is there to just take images and videos? Whew, well, that's disappointing.
The first look of Penstar is that it feels like the design looks. And that is basically like throwing a whole bunch of stuff at a concept or a device, so that you can have like, oh, let's have a camera, let's have physical buttons and these capacitive buttons that are not capacitive buttons but that they're a pen, and then we have a pen. Well, we're not going to do the magnet thing, but we're going to do this thing. So super traditional, old school, that you're going to interact with this super innovating thing that's right next to the super old school thing, and it just feels like a mishmash. Now, almost none of this is done badly. So all of the mishmash stuff that's done here is done really well. So you have camera that is not protruding at all from the back, and it's very nicely integrated into the body. The body is built in a beautiful way. So it's really nice. The design, way too busy for my taste, but it's original. It does have this kind of mountain thing, and it's very secure. It does beat a magnetic connection whenever, any time mechanical thing is going to beat a magnetic connection. I gotta say that after a couple of days, I did get used to this type of thing and using it fairly effortlessly. So clearly there has been quite a bit of thought behind the design of this device. So that's not a problem, but that doesn't really take away from the chaos. Some level of chaos and confusion is there on this device. Are there strong points? Yes, there is one really important strong point, and that is the image quality and clarity and the front light quality and uniformity. As far as devices with Kaleido 3 panels go, I think that this is one of the devices that has the best clarity, contrast, uniformity, and all of the, above that I have tested so far. I don't know exactly how they managed to do that, but that is a very clear impression that I have from the Penstar eNote Pro Color. Is that excellent image and front light quality enough for the users to overcome the slowness and the sloppiness and the old schoolness of the operating system and the user interface? I don't know, time will tell. And again, this is just a first look of this device, because now I'm going to spend time with it. I'm going to run through all of the DAF tests and all of that kind of stuff. Already now I know that writing is not that fast and all that kind of stuff, but what I'm really interested in is to measure the differences of the display itself and see how it compares to other Kaleido 3 panels, because I think that that is a strong point of this device. Other strong points, well, it's obviously customizability with the buttons, but here I gotta say that you've kind of lost some of the functionalities and some of the customizability from the previous one, for example, eNote 2, because it had way more buttons here that were all available for customization. And this is no longer true. Now you are limited to 4 physical buttons that can be customized and 3, well, yeah, EMR reactive, vacuum reactive buttons on the side that you can't really see at all in this light. See? So no matter how, wait a minute, you can, yeah, there we go. You can catch a glimpse of these icons. Maybe if the light hits it the right way, but otherwise, in these lighting conditions, and these are normal optimal lighting conditions, these are as good as invisible. And there's no dividers, they don't glow, you can't really use them. So in my opinion, while it looks sexy and it's like, ooh, super modern, it's a really significant step back from the physical buttons that we've had on the eNote and the eNote 2. Do let me know in the comments down below, what are your impressions of this device? Have you used it? Have you encountered it? Are you thinking about maybe getting it? And what are your thoughts and opinions about this device and where it sits along the, oversaturated and overcrowded lineup of ePaper devices that we currently have on the market at the price point that it actually has. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!